I wouldn't say it's work at all, because it's so easy, actually. It's the only thing that I actually feel like I know how to do. I've tried working in other things before, but that seemed like far too much effort. And meeting people in the meetings and retreats that I do, it's really, I know this sounds a little corny, but it's really about meeting myself. Because every time I sit in front of someone, because the format that I do the meetings and retreats in is that we have dialogues, very intimate dialogues. So when we sit together, whether it's just sitting together or whether it's just looking or some kind of investigation in words together, it's really all about me. I'm not trying to help anybody else. I actually don't care about anybody else, to be honest. It's all about exploring what is real. And when I say me, I'm not actually talking about me, Unmani, kind of closed in here somehow, but me. And somehow together, although we appear to be separate, we're actually exploring me. Yeah, so it's an amazing dance of exploration that happens together. So yeah, it's not work at all. Yeah. It's very difficult to put into words, actually. One way to say it maybe is that when there's a meeting beyond meeting, when it's recognized beyond words that there's no meeting of two separate people, because even that would be too intellectual again, and that we'd have to make some effort to even imagine that there are two separate people. But when all the boundaries melt and we see that actually there were no boundaries in the first place. So even intimacy is the wrong word for it, really, because intimacy also implies two separate people getting intimate together and meeting somehow. So it's beyond intimacy, it's closer than intimacy. There's not a really good word for it, because every word implies two separate objects. So yeah, there's a recognition of that intimacy, really, beyond the understanding of it. It could be very easy to deny that we have kind of so-called personal emotions and sensations when you recognize what is beyond all of that. But I really see it as not separate. That even though who I really am is that is aware of every emotion, sensation, and everything else that happens, still those emotions and sensations do happen, and they are very much felt. I mean, it's not really about understanding where they come from or why they're there, but literally feeling that they are there, and having a kind of radical honesty with them, because there's so many cover-up games that we play to try and protect ourselves, and it is a kind of survival thing that goes on. We're just innocently trying to survive in the world, and we have these tools that we've picked up on the way from our parents or teachers or books or whatever, to survive. And some of them just kind of click in almost unconsciously when we're provoked or in a seemingly threatening situation, and some of them we think that that's what we should do, so we kind of purposely almost play those things out. But I find in investigating those patterns, those mechanisms, in the light of who we really are, kind of shining a torch of honesty onto those patterns, we can see that actually they're just mechanisms playing out, that it's not our fault, we're not doing them really on purpose, we don't even need to do them. There's no one actually there that needs protecting, but they're just assumed to be needed. And through investigating them, they're okay to stay there. They don't actually ever need to go away. They never need to be fixed, because they're not disturbing anyone, really, if we're honest. It's only when we believe that they're disturbing me, they seem to be disturbing me. But yeah, through investigating them, they're seen for what they really are, and they're allowed to be there maybe forever, or to fall away, or to come back again. But who really cares? I often see that recognizing who you really are is the first thing that, I mean, it's the bottom, what's the word, the most basic recognition, the most basic first step, let's say, even, because without that it would just take everything to be personal, to be about me, to be my problem, especially on a spiritual path where we're searching to fix me. And so every emotion, every sensation is seen to be some kind of problem for me. And even in the trying to fix it, it still continues to be a problem that I need to fix. I'm not good enough. Or even if it does seem to be temporarily fixed, then, oh, well done, I've fixed it. I've got one step further. So while there's that seeing from a kind of personal perspective, which is it seems to be very limited, and also very painful, then we can't really admit that these emotions are just coming and going. They're not actually mine. I'm not holding on to them. I don't need them even. So yeah, recognizing who you are would be the first step. Without that, yeah, it just goes on. We go on chasing experience. So in recognizing who you are, then yeah, we can start to be really honest and feel the emotions without trying to fix them. They can be there forever. Yeah, because we recognize that there's no one who's disturbed, no one who needs anything to be fixed. And that's the freedom in the emotion, not from the emotion. You know, we don't need to get rid of some emotion or some story or some experience in order to be free. We already know the freedom that I am already. You know. Yes, I do see that a lot, and it's another arrogance, really, of thinking, to think that I could allow, I will allow these emotions. You know. How dare I even think that I could allow the emotions? Who do I think I am? That I'm going to allow these emotions. Yeah. It's ridiculous, really. It's another little sneaky game that the mind plays with itself to take some kind of higher position, to allow everything to happen, where actually the reality is that it is how it is, whether you think that you're going to allow it or not. You know, that's the humility of it. You know, that it is already everything that we think that we should become. requires a little memory, a little effort. Yeah, I guess, as I was saying, seeing, well, with this radical honesty, which can't help but be there if you recognize who you are. It's an unraveling that happens whether you like it or not, whether you try to make it happen or not. And I feel that that's what's happened for me, and continues. You know, there's no end to this unraveling. Yeah, I mean, emotions are seen for what they are, a story behind an emotion, a cover-up game that's trying to cover up some more unpleasant or slightly sickening emotion, is revealed for what it is, and the layers are seen for what they are. So yeah, that seems to have happened more and more over the years. And there's just endless gratitude for the way it's happened, because, you know, I couldn't have manufactured this if I would have tried. I wouldn't have known where to start. Any kind of trying that I may have done in the past was it just seemed to be in the way, really. And actually, it seems that just in really seeing that I have no control, I have no choice, no escape from anything that happens. Again and again, like, no escape. It's a complete surrender. Not that I need to surrender, I don't do anything to surrender, but seeing that there is a surrender, whether I want to do that or not, whether I'm fighting it or not. Even that fight, there's no escape from that. So it's just a kind of complete, you know, just life is just has taken me and continues to take me, however it is. So, yeah. Oh, everything. So many areas are misunderstood. When we try to understand it intellectually, it's misunderstood. When we try to understand it, it's misunderstood. When we try to experience it, it's misunderstood. You know, when we don't trust that we actually don't need to try anything, that it's already fully, more than understood, it's fully here, beyond here. It's fully living itself just the way you are right now. You know, when we don't trust that, when we overlook it in the search for something more, or we imagine that someone else has got something that we haven't, when we doubt ourselves, when we trust thought over our own direct knowing, yeah, then of course it's misunderstood. But again, you know, even that is life playing itself out just as that. So although that's painful often, the experience is not necessarily ideal for that individual feeling that, it's still ultimately life playing itself as that. And it reveals itself in its own time. You know, there's no need, there's no rush, there's nowhere to get to anyway. So we don't even need to try to understand. It's too much effort. You know, it's really about being lazy. It's the ultimate laziness. You know, it's never getting out of bed in the morning. Really, it's yeah, so much easier than we imagine. Well, to answer that, I have to talk a little bit about the old name. The name of my website and my meetings has been Not Knowing. And that was really, I started that name felt right when I first started doing the meetings about 8 years ago or something like that. because when I started, I felt like it was a kind of rebellious scream. Because I always felt as a child that this was obvious to me, always. But everyone around me seemed to know so much. They seemed to put intellectual knowledge up there on some pedestal, and I never understood it. I never realised, I never got what was so important about that intellectual understanding, and I never knew who I was. I never knew what I was supposed to be doing in this world, how I was supposed to be living, whether what I was doing was right or wrong, or okay or good enough. And so later on, when I started doing these meetings, it was kind of in gratitude to the little girl that always knew that she didn't know. And it was a rebellious scream like, yeah, I don't need to know. Woohoo! That was why I was doing the meetings. It was never to be a teacher or never to change the world or tell people. It was just literally to kind of scream, and to kind of take that little girl by her hand and say, yeah, we don't need to know. But after some time, even that changed. And now I feel that there's no need to rebel anymore. There hasn't been for a while, and changing the website, changing what I call my meetings now, it seems to just be an expression of what has naturally changed over the last few years. There's no need to rebel. Who am I going to be rebelling against anyway? It was a phase that had to happen to kind of swing to the opposite extreme just to feel that. But yeah, there's no need to rebel against anyone or anything. And that little girl, well, she's always here, but she's also not here, and although I still don't know anything, really, I still don't need to know, but the expression seems to be evolving or continuously, and more and more courage, without rebellion, just a natural kind of expression. Maybe more of a sensual aliveness seems to be expressed more. And I've changed the website to Die to Love now, which is also the title of my second book. And I love talking about death. It's one of my favourite topics, mainly because it's something that most people avoid talking about. And I also love talking about love, because it seems to be something that in this kind of non-dual scene, it's often considered to be too fluffy, too kind of wishy-washy, maybe a bit too feminine. And I like using die or death and love in the same sentence, because they are the same thing. In dying to who you are, then all there is love. Life loves itself, and in that is the death of any separation, the death that is right now, that is always, no matter what. So it seems to be about that now, and who knows, it might change again. Absolutely. Although it also appears as a personal experience of two people coming together in love, and with the whole experience of that. But yeah, the love that I'm talking about is, well, love is just another word for who I am. And I like using the word love, because although it seems to have been misinterpreted again and again, just because of that, there's no need to not use the word. It's the way I see it is, it's an all-inclusive word. It's not just talking about a particular limited experience of love, or certain feelings of wanting to connect with somebody, or obsessing about someone even, or being addicted to someone. But seeing what is beyond that, what includes everything, no matter what, whether we like it, whether it's uncomfortable, whether we think it's ugly or unpleasant, it's beyond all ideas. It's actually unconditional love, but even that has been misinterpreted. So often we try to do that unconditional love. We try to be unconditionally loving in our experience, but it's ridiculous, really, because every kind of trying and doing is always going to be conditional. So the unconditional love is our nature, it's who we are, so we don't need to bother to try to be that. We can just relax and be conditional, knowing that who we are is always unconditional love. I find it very difficult to look at time like that, as in, because it kind of, you have to make sweeping generalizations, and we could do that playfully. There's nothing wrong with that, but I really feel that the individuals that I meet them now, and so to kind of bulk them into some sweeping generalization about everybody or a trend, it's not really what interests me at all, to kind of talk about trends of evolution. Or it seems far too intellectual, and I'm far too lazy to think about that. Oh God. No. I mean, what the hell? I mean, yeah, I ask people that question too, but yeah, I mean that, when I ask people that question, who are you? I mean, I ask them, who are you right now? It's really a trick question, because of course it's quite natural. The mind goes into like, quick, think of some answer. Who am I supposed to be? And you grab hold of, some old story, or I could tell you, my story, where I grew up, or what my name is, and all this. But as soon as I do that, I start to feel this kind of effort and tension, and it's tiring, and that's clearly not who I am. I'm not that effort. And so that's the trick of the question, to feel that effort, to see that searching for an answer, and to see the contrast between that and what I'm not, which is what I am. Yeah. Yeah.